Good evening to you. I'm First Alert Meteorologist Cutter Martin with a check of the First Alert forecast, and yet again a closer look at an increasing risk of black ice, and with tonight's setup, the possibility of some freezing fog, something that we don't talk about too much here in North Georgia and Metro Atlanta. Basically, it is fog, those tiny little drizzle droplets that are, that fog is made up of. Basically, you're in the cloud, so to speak, and the chance that because temperatures are below freezing, those tiny little droplets could contribute to some slick spots developing, more slick travel developing, really redeveloping overnight tonight into tomorrow morning. We, though, have seen slick travel pretty much all day long. Now, certainly some vast improvement compared to 24 hours ago, but our secondary roads, our neighborhood streets, those turn lanes, the medians, places like that, still slushy, still slick, even though some of us have managed to climb above freezing. And as we go through the duration of the stream, I want to remind you there are two places we can chat. You can simply text us at 470-777-WANF. That's 470-777-9263. You can also get a full list of resources texted to you if you text weather, WEATHER, weather to 470-777-9263, including your latest First Alert forecast in case you miss it here. Look at closures that we have. Of course, it's the weekend now, so we're not tracking any school closures. Not as many closures, though I have already heard of some churches that are closed or maybe have delayed some Sunday services. So a lot to watch here, a lot to track. You can also simply chat with me on YouTube right now. Atlanta News First is the account that we are streaming on. If you have any weather questions and comments or concerns with the First Alert forecast. Let's go ahead and get to it live outside. This is from the Atlantic building in Atlantic Station, looking back to the south and southeast. Going to go ahead and drop the banner there. You can still see buildings. The sides of the 14th Street overpass there, still coated in white, still slushy, quite slick. In fact, even with temperatures above freezing in a couple of spots, the spots that really are untreated and less traveled. And that's with a temperature, at least in Atlanta, Hartsfield-Jackson Atlanta International Airport, that's with the temperature above freezing at 34. As soon as we get to sunset, we are going to see temperatures really plummet. And that's going to absolutely refreeze, and very quickly, I might add, refreeze any moisture that is lingering out on roadways across North Georgia and Metro Atlanta. So black ice is the main concern this evening after sunset. That will carry us into the overnight hours. That will carry us even through the early hours of tomorrow morning. So the risk of black ice is there just because we have melting snow and ice, and then temperatures are now going to fall very quickly below freezing. In fact, tonight will be much colder than it was last night. So the risk of ice, even though we've had some drying through the day today, I think the risk of ice, I think the risk of slick travel is a little bit greater overnight tonight. Granted, it's a Saturday night going into a Sunday morning, not a Friday night going into a Saturday morning, and not a Thursday night going into a Friday morning, like the past two, commute periods or time periods we've been watching. So it is a time where most folks are off the roads anyway, but if you're planning on headed out to dinner tonight, the bars, anything like that on a Saturday night, any typical Saturday night fare, make sure you are being exceptionally careful. And even better than that, if you can stay home, maybe order in or walk to get it delivered. That way no one is having to drive. Or just walk to maybe your favorite watering hole, your favorite restaurant, your favorite, whatever it is you like to do. It's kind of interesting. Yesterday, we were in the Cool Rate First Alert Tracker on Roswell Road through Roswell, and the most amount of people I've ever seen walking on either side of Roswell Road were walking on the side of Roswell Road. They were still getting out. There were some restaurants still open. Grocery store still open as well. Gas stations open for supplies. They were just simply walking on the side of the road and on sidewalks, choosing to take that safer form of transportation rather than trying to get in a car and get on the roadways. And I think that they were making the right choice. Kimberly, the GA Mountain Woman, the Georgia Mountain Woman on YouTube, that's the avatar we're speaking with, saying everything is frozen over here in Blairsville. And yeah, some are still cold. Some are still below freezing. Notice Helen is at 39, but LJ is at 29. So especially when you get up in the mountains, elevation is crucial. And also notice what is going on here. We have sunshine in some areas. That is why Athens is 37. That is why Helen is 39. We have some sunshine here in eastern portions of Georgia, really East Georgia, though. Even Covington with a little more sunshine, still at freezing, 32 degrees. Even with some clouds, we have managed to climb above freezing briefly in Atlanta. But we are below freezing in Canton. We are at freezing in Carrollton with a little more sunshine down in Troup County, Randolph County, Cleburne County in Alabama. Temperatures are at or above freezing, but not for long. Everyone is about to take the plunge after sunset. Kimberly saying everything is closed up in Blairsville, and yeah, I imagine so. You all saw more snow than the city of Atlanta and have remained below freezing this entire time. And, of course, you have the elevation. You have steep hills and less of a way to treat those secondary roadways. So I imagine it's very slick and all closed up there in Blairsville. Same can be said for portions of Fannin County, White County, Union County, Rabun County, Clay County, North Carolina, maybe even northern portions of Lumpkin County. I have, a friend, and they have a camera set up in Dahlonega in Lumpkin County, and they're at least their grass, their property, still covered in white. So some are still dealing with complete closures and slick conditions. Some have seen a little bit of melting this afternoon, and now that as we head into the evening, we're going to see that risk really begin to increase, that whatever melting you did see will turn right back into ice. Again, here is that hour-by-hour risk of black ice forming, and some are already seeing black ice. This is a little bit more Atlanta-centric. This is a little bit more for the city of Atlanta. Right now, there are still a few slick spots, but a relatively low risk of complete refreezing at 3 p.m. At least at 3 p.m., that was the forecast. But as we go through the 6 o'clock hour, we're going to really start to see that risk climb. And as we get into the overnight stretch here, everyone is going to see whatever melting that they did have, even south of Atlanta, freeze right back up. So slick travel, it's a solid bet. It's a very safe bet. And we're looking at widespread black ice conditions and the possibility of some freezing fog even up in the mountains, Kimberly, developing overnight tonight. But that risk is greatest at Atlanta Metro Point south, along and south of the I-20 corridor. So here we are with temperatures. Some above freezing, some just barely above freezing, and others still below freezing. Case in point, Blairsville, Kimberly, here's your forecast model at 28. You never made it above freezing today. By 9 p.m., Blairsville is back in the upper teens. Mid-20s, Atlanta. Jonesboro, mid-20s, 30 LaGrange, 32 Thomaston. So everyone is below freezing. Everyone is starting to see that moisture. If you did get any melting today, freeze back up across North Georgia and metro Atlanta. Here we are, 3 o'clock in the morning. Hopefully you're tucked in warm and in bed by that point. Temperatures in the teens in Dawsonville as well. Teens in Blairsville, lower 20s Calhoun, lower 20s Atlanta, 27 in Thomaston. And I think that even the city of Atlanta is going to cool. We'll bring this clock back here to 7 o'clock in the morning. Barely out of the teens. Some will be in the teens across the metro overnight tonight. It is going to be a very cold night, frigid night, colder than it was last night. And with temperatures this cold, even some of the chemicals that they use to treat the roadways will have trouble working as effectively and as efficiently as they would if temperatures were just a little bit closer to the freezing mark, 32 degrees. Now, we're not going to have anything falling from the sky tonight, just clouds, and then we'll clear out. And then fog is forecast to redevelop, and there is that risk of some freezing fog overnight tonight. Let's go ahead and pull out that fog forecast. And where you see visibility dropping to near zero, there is also the possibility that those little fog droplets, think about fog as a cloud. It is a cloud. It's a cloud at the surface made up of tiny little water droplets, basically tiny little drizzle droplets. And wherever you see these visibilities here, dropping closer to zero, there could be just enough of those water droplets freezing on contact with surfaces like signs, and more importantly in this case roads, to create additional slick spots. And notice how this really starts to develop by mid-evening. And again, first alert weather day does continue this evening, overnight tonight, into Sunday morning. We're not going to peel back that first alert weather day until we get into, the afternoon hours on our Sunday. So we're not going to see vast improvement until we head into the afternoon hours Sunday. That's when we're going to see, of course, fog is gone and temperatures climbing safely above freezing and more significant melting occurring in the first alert forecast. So now that we have that graphic updated, first alert weather day continuing through tomorrow morning, let's go ahead and roll hour by hour. Again, notice how fog starts to develop by 9, 10 o'clock with the visibility in Carrollton down to 3 miles. Not particularly dense, but noticeable fog. Unfortunately, by 11 p.m., we're looking at low visibility Atlanta, low visibility Covington, low visibility in Griffin, Carrollton, low visibility. And where you see these kind of zeros, or even if it's just above zero, 1/4, 1/2 mile, fog is thick enough to create a sheen of moisture on elevated surfaces especially, but also roads, with temperatures as cold as they are forecast to be, and that will only add to the risk of slick spots, to the risk of black ice, and to the risk of slick travel overnight tonight into tomorrow morning. So again, once again, here is that hour-by-hour look at your risk of black ice. Everybody has a high risk this evening, overnight tonight, and through the early hours of tomorrow morning. Please do keep that in mind. Everyone does have that risk tonight into tomorrow morning. If you have early church services before 10 a.m., your risk of encountering slick roadways is going to be exceptionally high. The closer we get to noon, the better the condition will be. And then as we get into the afternoon, we're forecasting temperatures to rise back above freezing. Again, a look at low temperatures tonight with a first alert weather day continuing into tomorrow morning. Also waking up to some freezing fog. We're looking at widespread upper teens and lower 20s. It is going to be a very cold start, a frigid start to our Sunday, regardless of the melting snow refreezing and regardless of that possibility of some freezing fog developing across North Georgia and metro Atlanta. High temperatures tomorrow, though, will warm up. We are going to be back well above freezing, and we are going to be warmer than today. So we are looking at improvement tomorrow, and that is good news. We need to get this not only melted, but we need to get those roadways dry so that if we inevitably, and we will again, fall below freezing tomorrow night into Monday morning, enough drying to where we're not looking at big roadway issues. Here's a look at high temperatures. Most of us low to mid-40s. Again, first alert weather day, we are peeling it back tomorrow afternoon. We're well above freezing, 10, 15 degrees above freezing. The ice, the snow will melt, and with sunshine tomorrow, remember today we did, in Atlanta at least, climb above freezing, but not much sunshine with all the clouds. That will melt, and it will dry. That's the most important part. We don't just need this to melt. We need it to dry. Because if it's dry, even as temperatures fall back below freezing Sunday night, early Monday morning, there won't be any moisture to refreeze, and that risk of slick spots will be much, much lower than it is shaping up to be tonight into tomorrow morning as we look ahead to Sunday night into Monday morning. So again, first alert weather day through noon tomorrow, risk of black ice, slick travel early tomorrow morning, 48 Monday afternoon, 20% chance of maybe a couple sleet pellets, maybe a tiny little bit of freezing drizzle well south, and it doesn't look like that's going to cause any travel woes. Again, that 20% might be a little, don't want to use the word generous, but generous, a little liberal there with the rain chance. The National Weather Service office in Peachtree City also not that concerned about any significant frozen precipitation, but we'll keep an eye on it. That's with a front that's going to usher in some colder air once again, right back to low to mid-20s Tuesday and Wednesday mornings. In fact, cold weather lingers in the first alert forecast through the middle of the week. Next rain chance Saturday. And if that forecast continues to hold for a wetter Saturday, that will be our next first alert weather day. Next day that has weather that could impact your plans, in particular the outdoor plans. That's liquid rain, temperatures much warmer, no risk of wintry weather as we get into next weekend. I want to remind you, we will continue to keep you updated at AtlantaNewsFirst.com. Just click on the First Alert Weather tab. Also, we will keep you updated in the First Alert Weather app, recorded and placed the video in there just a few moments ago. And tonight at 6 p.m., a condensed 6 o'clock newscast streaming on A&F+. We'll walk you through current conditions. If we do have any road trouble spots, we will let you know at 6 p.m. with Joy Lim Nakrin, keeping you updated. Again, streaming condensed newscast at 6 p.m. on Atlanta News First Plus. Stay warm, stay safe, and have a great Saturday evening.